Story 1. The sun was setting, painting the Ohio sky in fiery streaks of orange and purple. "All right, YouTube," I whispered into the camera, my voice low and excited. "Ben's Backyard Bushcraft, coming at you live from the wilds of, well, a pretty thick patch of woods in southern Ohio." Day 1, setting up camp. I panned the camera around, showing my neatly pitched tent, the small fire pit already dug, and the pile of firewood I'd gathered. My goal was simple, a solo camping video, raw and authentic, showing everything from shelter building to cooking. After dinner, some dehydrated chili that actually tasted pretty good, I decided to do a nighttime vlog. The crickets were chirping, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and the air was getting cool. "Just chilling by the fire now," I mumbled, holding the camera up. "It's super peaceful out here. No one around for miles, just me and nature." That's when I heard it. A sound, faint at first, then growing louder. It wasn't an animal. It was a thump. Like something heavy hitting the ground. Then another, and another. I froze, the camera still running. My heart started to beat hard against my ribs. "Did you guys hear that?" I whispered to the camera, my voice barely audible. The sound was coming from deeper in the woods, maybe 100 yards away. It wasn't moving, just thumping in place. I tried to rationalize it. A branch falling? But it was too rhythmic. Someone walking? But why so heavy and slow? And in the middle of nowhere? Then, the thumping stopped. The silence that followed was even worse. My skin prickled. I kept the camera pointed towards the sound, trying to zoom in, even though it was pitch black beyond my small firelight. A new sound started. A low, guttural hum. It wasn't singing, not really. More like someone trying to vibrate their throat. It was off-key and unsteady, like a sick person trying to hold a note. It filled the air, seeping into the quiet woods. I pulled the camera back, my hand shaking. "Okay, so that's new," I forced out, trying to sound brave for the camera, but my voice wavered. The hum grew louder, then softer, then louder again, like whatever was making it was breathing in and out, but the sound was always there. It was close. Too close. Suddenly, a shadow flickered at the edge of my campfire light. Just a glimpse. Tall. Not quite human-shaped. It moved fast, darting behind a thick tree trunk. I gasped, dropping the camera on my lap. My breath hitched. I picked up the camera again, my hand slick with sweat, and pointed it at the spot where I saw the shadow. Nothing. Just trees. The hum was still going, but it felt like it was closer now, directly behind the trees. I packed up everything as fast as I could, throwing gear into my backpack. The hum was relentless, a sickening drone that vibrated in my teeth. I didn't care about the video anymore. I didn't care about anything but getting out. I ran. I didn't look back. I just ran, the hum chasing me through the dark woods until I hit the road in my car. I drove away, my hands shaking on the wheel, the sound of that awful hum echoing in my ears long after it was gone. I never uploaded that night footage. Some things are better left unseen. Story 2. The air in the Kentucky woods was crisp and smelled of pine. My buddy, Dawn, was messing with the campfire, trying to get it to really blaze. We picked a spot deep in Daniel Boone National Forest, far from any trails or other campers. We wanted real quiet. Yeah, until a bear eats our jerky, Don grumbled, but he was smiling. We'd been planning this trip for months, just us, the wilderness, and enough snacks to last a week. Night fell fast, and the stars popped out, bright and clear. We sat by the fire, talking about old times, laughing. The only sounds were the crackle of the fire and the hoot of an owl in the distance. It was perfect. Around midnight, things changed. We heard a sound. It wasn't an animal. It was like a scratching. A long, drawn-out scrape, like fingernails dragging on a dry tree bark. Then it stopped. Don looked at me, his smile gone. "What was that?" "Probably just a branch," I said, but my voice sounded weaker than I wanted. Then it started again, closer this time. Scrape. It was slow and deliberate. It sounded heavy, like whatever was doing it was big. It seemed to be moving in a wide circle around our camp. We both went quiet, listening. The scratching continued, going around and around us. It was too regular to be an animal. And no animal would just scrape like that for so long. Maybe it's a deer rubbing its antlers? Don whispered, but his eyes were wide. A deer wouldn't make that sound, I replied. And it wouldn't be doing it all the way around us like that. Suddenly, the scratching stopped right behind our tent. We heard a soft rustling, then a very quiet, slow breathing. It was shallow, almost a wheeze. We couldn't see anything, but we knew it was there, right on the other side of the thin tent fabric. Don grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in. His face was pale in the firelight. Then, a new sound came from the darkness, a voice. It was low, raspy, and sounded like someone trying to speak with a mouthful of gravel. It said, very slowly, "You shouldn't be here." My blood ran cold. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a prank. The voice was too raw, too old. We scrambled to our feet, knocking over a cooler. We didn't even grab our bags. Don grabbed the axe we brought for splitting wood. I picked up a big stick, useless as it was. The voice didn't say anything else, but we heard the quiet rustling again, moving away from the tent. We stood there for what felt like an hour, listening to the night. We heard the distinct crunch of leaves as something heavy moved away, deeper into the forest. We couldn't sleep. We kept the fire going, bright and hot. We didn't talk much, just stared into the darkness, straining our ears. The first hint of dawn, we packed up our camp in record time. We left half our supplies. We just wanted to get out. As we hiked out, the sun barely piercing the tree line, we heard it again, far in the distance. The slow, drawn-out scrape. It was like it was saying goodbye. We didn't stop to look back. We just walked faster. We haven't been camping since. Story 3. Isn't it amazing, Jane? I asked, looking out over the red rock canyons of Utah. The silence was immense, broken only by the wind whistling softly through the sparse junipers. We'd found a remote spot, miles from any real campgrounds, wanting to experience the true quiet of the desert. Jane, my wife, nodded, her arm wrapped around mine. We loved getting away, just the two of us, into places untouched by people. We set up our tent in a small, flat clearing, surrounded by towering red rock formations. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples. It was beautiful, but also a little eerie. So much emptiness. After a simple dinner of sandwiches, we sat by our small campfire, listening to the vast quiet. The stars came out, thick and bright, like spilled glitter on black velvet. Then, around midnight, a new sound cut through the stillness. It was faint at first, carried on the desert wind. A chime. Like small bells, but irregular. Not a wind chime. Too random. "What's that?" Jane whispered, her head cocked. I shrugged. Couldn't be a bell. No cattle out here. The chiming continued, sounding like it was coming from one of the distant canyons. It kept going for a while, then stopped. Just as we were starting to relax, it started again, closer this time. Much closer. Now, we could hear something else with the chiming. A soft, shuffling sound. Like bare feet dragging through sand. My heart began to thump. "Someone's out here," I mumbled. But who? In the middle of nowhere? And what were those chimes? We both sat still, listening. The shuffling and chiming got even closer. It sounded like it was coming from behind one of the big rock formations to our left. It was moving slowly, deliberately. Then, a light appeared. A faint, yellowish glow, flickering oddly. It wasn't a flashlight. It was too soft, too unsteady. It bobbed up and down, then disappeared, then reappeared. "Frank," Jane breathed, her voice tight with fear. She pointed a trembling finger. A figure emerged from behind the rocks, bathed in that weird, soft light. It was tall and thin, like a stick figure. It wore what looked like tattered, loose clothes, and dangling from its arms and legs were what looked like dozens of small, shiny objects that made the chiming sound as it moved. It walked with a strange, jerky gait, not quite human. Its head seemed too big, out of proportion to its body, and it was tilted at an unnatural angle. It stopped at the edge of our campfire light, maybe 50 feet away. It didn't have a face we could make out, just dark hollows where eyes should be. The light it carried seemed to come from its chest, pulsing faintly. It stood there, perfectly still, just watching us. The chiming had stopped. The shuffling had stopped. The silence pressed in, heavier than before. We didn't move. We didn't speak. We just stared. It felt like hours, though it was probably only minutes. The creature slowly raised a long, thin arm, and one of the dangling objects fell off, landing with a faint tinkle on the rock. It didn't seem to notice. Then, it turned its head slowly, still tilted, and began to shuffle away, the soft chiming starting up again. It walked back behind the rocks, the strange light fading until it was gone. We didn't sleep a wink that night. We broke camp before the sun was fully up, our hands shaking as we packed. We never spoke about what we saw, not really. But every time we hear a faint bell, or see a flickering light in the distance, we remember the chiming figure in the Utah desert. Russ's Georgia apparition. Okay, this is it, I said to myself, setting my backpack down. I'd hiked deep into the Cayuga wilderness in northern Georgia, looking for a truly isolated spot. No cell service, no other people. Just me, my tent, and the old-growth trees. It was early autumn, and the air was cool and smelled of damp earth and pine needles. The afternoon sun dappled through the leaves, making patterns on the forest floor. I spent the afternoon setting up my small camp, gathering firewood, and exploring a bit. By the time darkness fell, I had a good fire going and was feeling pretty content. The sounds of the forest at night were comforting: crickets, a faraway owl, the gentle rustle of leaves. Later that night, as I was drifting off in my tent, a new sound woke me up. It was a whistle. A very clear, high-pitched whistle, like someone calling a dog. But it wasn't a normal whistle. It was too long, too drawn out, and it had a strange waver to it. I sat up, listening. It came again, from further away this time, but still clear. It wasn't a bird. It was too human. But who would be out here, in the middle of nowhere, at this hour, whistling like that? My stomach tightened. I unzipped my tent door a little and peeked out. The fire had died down to embers. The woods beyond were black. The whistling stopped. Then, a new sound. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps, crunching on the fallen leaves. They were coming closer to my camp. Crunch, crunch. I pulled my head back into the tent, my heart hammering. I tried to convince myself it was an animal, maybe a deer. But deer don't whistle. And the footsteps were too heavy, too even. The footsteps stopped right outside my tent. I could feel it. Something was standing just inches from my flimsy nylon wall. I held my breath, not daring to move a muscle. I could almost feel its presence, a cold dread seeping into my tent. Then, a voice. It was a whisper, so low I almost didn't hear it. But it was definitely a voice. "Hello?" it breathed. It sounded old and rough, like someone who hadn't spoken in a long time. My entire body was frozen. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The voice whispered again, closer now, almost right next to my ear, though I knew it was outside the tent. "Are you alone?" I squeezed my eyes shut. I thought I might throw up. I heard a soft sigh, like a gust of wind. Then, the tent fabric right by my head pressed inward. A cold, flat pressure. It held there for a moment, pushing on the tent wall, as if something was leaning its face against it. I could practically feel the cold seeping through. I let out a small, terrified gasp. The pressure lifted. The whisper came again, but it sounded further away, fading into the night. "Don't be afraid." I stayed absolutely still for what felt like hours. I didn't open my eyes. I didn't move until the first hint of gray light touched the sky. When I finally dared to unzip my tent, the air was still and cold. Nothing was disturbed. But on the ground, right where I felt the pressure, was a single, perfectly formed, small white stone. It wasn't there before. I grabbed my gear, not even bothering to make coffee. I left the stone there. I walked out of those woods as fast as I could, looking over my shoulder every few minutes. The whistle haunted me for weeks after. I still wonder who, or what, was out there, asking if I was alone.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, baby,